Hi everybody, and welcome to part 4 of my little mini-series filling up the blank pages in my Traveller's Notebook January to June diary. Now at this point I don't know if I'm going to need them, but I have got my scissors and my glue ready in case I need to stick something in at this point. So just to show you where I've got up to, I've done making the spaces for all my photos and then putting in all the background paint and things like that, and that's basically as far as we've got. So before we go any further with the process of just covering the page in stickers and washi tape and all sorts of nonsense, I do want to make sure that there aren't any date-specific events that I need to put in on certain days as they happened, as it were. Now, I've got a terrible memory. There's no way I was going to remember all of these things that happened. I've got my little spaces that I've left in the hope that I can remember something to go on each day. But to help me remember what goes where, I'm going to do two things, essentially. So the first thing I'm going to do is to go through my diary's planners. So I have two here. The one on the left is a Hobonichi Weeks. It is my everyday carry, so it has all the usual everyday life, appointments, banking, sorts of boring life, adult stuff in there. So it'll have appointments and things. The one on the right here I'm using for morning pages mostly and sort of creative journaling. So I'm going to go through this as well because I might find things in there that I wrote about doing that might be interesting to put in my journal. I'm not really hopeful that I'll find all that much, to be honest, but I'd like to put most of it in this notebook to sort of highlight certain memories, essentially. So that's sort of one half of what I'm going to do in this video. And the other half is a bit weird and a bit odd. And you might think, what on earth are you doing this for? I'm basically killing two birds with one stone here. So what I'm going to do is go through my massive pile of life admin paperwork, which is thrilling, I'm sure you can imagine. And don't worry, I'm not going to do this on camera. Go through my paperwork. Basically because I have a feeling that in this stack of paper there's going to be things like letters from my son's school, letters about certain events that we went to, things like that I might want to either make notes from or cut out pictures from and stick them down. There's going to be some really boring stuff, as you can see, like my contents insurance. Obviously I'm not going to put that in my planner, that's not really exciting. But I do need to go through this paperwork anyway, and there's at least 6 months of this stuff sitting here that I need to sort out. So I figured sort of a review of life up to this point that includes going through my boring paperwork stash, but sort of extracting all the interesting stuff, putting it in here, and then I can then get rid of, hopefully, most of the paperwork on the right, and just be left with my lovely diaries and planners on the left. So that is what I'm going to do today. So off camera, I've been through everything, and I haven't really found all that much, if I'm perfectly honest. I haven't really got that much to write down. I think probably we just live very dull lives. Don't really do much, but that's fine. So I figured rather than writing in with my fountain pen, because the pages are getting a bit bulky and they've been sort of covered in paint and things, I don't want to risk it. So I thought just to make the page a little bit more interesting, I'd maybe vary up the writing a little bit and do some coloured pencil writing, and I can do sort of large letters, seeing as I've got all this huge amount of space to use up now. So I'd say this is probably a trick I picked up from watching Mitz from My Life Mitz. I'm sure if you're in the planner community, you've seen her videos before, but she used to do, I don't know what she's doing now, I don't think I've seen recently, but she used to do Hobonichi journaling, daily ones, where she'd stick all sorts of ephemera down and photos and things, and then she'd do sort of quite a variety of lettering on the page. So there'd be small writing, but there'd also be bigger writing. I think she used to hand paint lettering and then go around it with another pen. There's all different ways to do it, essentially, and you can do, if you vary things up on the page, so you could do paint, you could do pencil, you could do large letters, small letters, it does make the whole thing a little bit more interesting. Obviously with this diary layout we are limited slightly more with space. There's not quite so much space on the page to do giant letters, but you totally could. I mean, if you didn't have much on a page, you could write one big thing across the whole thing if you wanted to. But I'm just sort of doing a mixture of pens. to see. I'd quite like to know actually if anybody's using this book what pen you use, because I'm not actually getting on with my fountain pens in it. I don't know whether that's just me, but I do find that I don't really enjoy using fountain pens in traveller's notebooks. I mean, is that a kind of a universal thing? I'm not quite sure. Let me know what you think. Let me know what pens you use, because yeah, I'm not really, I find that it doesn't sort of flow smoothly onto the page, and I don't think it's entirely because of the bulkiness and the paint. I feel like there's other papers I prefer to use fountain pens on, like the Tom Ware River papers. And I'm actually thinking, because I'm going to Japan in the summer, maybe to pick up some Sarasa gel pens. I mean, to be honest, I do prefer to buy pens that are slightly more reusable. Like I said in a previous video, I do feel uncomfortable throwing pens in the bin, and I don't know how recyclable they are because there's lots of little bits of parts in them. So I have sort of avoided buying gel pens in recent years. And I know it's a drop in the ocean. Honestly, it's the tiniest little drop in the ocean of the disaster of single plastic use. But I don't know, I suppose we do do what we can, all our little bits. So I have been avoiding things like gel pens that come in a plastic casing, and then when you're done you chuck them. So let me know if you have a favourite gel pen that's slightly more environmentally friendly or more reusable, because there is an economic aspect to it as well. Sometimes it is cheaper to buy refills than to buy a whole new pen. I used to have the Sarasa Vintage set, and I did really enjoy using those. And I have a feeling that since the original set came out, there was another set that came out. So I'd quite like that, because I don't want to use black pen in here. I tend not to use black ink in sort of creative places. I just find it's almost a little bit too harsh and a little bit too strong. I feel like if you're writing in black ink and then you've got all these soft colours all over the page, the black ink stands out way too much. For me, I find it a bit of a harsh colour, and I suppose because nothing else really in terms of the drawings I do is in black. I don't do, black and white drawings so much. It kind of doesn't quite work together. So it's usually a dark blue ink when I'm using my fountain pens. But yeah, if you have any recommendations for not black, nice pens that you enjoy using in your traveller's notebooks, and I'm including any traveller's notebook in this because the paper, I believe, is the same across most of the standard ones. Obviously it will be different for the sketchbook paper inserts, but for most of the notebooks, fairly certain it's the standard Midori paper. So yeah, I'm open to recommendations, especially as I'm going to Japan in the summer, and everything will be a lot cheaper if I buy it in yen when we're there. I will film, actually, while I'm talking about that. I really, really want to film some more of Japan. Last summer we went back. It was the first summer going since we left, because we moved back to the UK just over 2 years ago from Japan. And it was the first summer going back after we'd moved. And I think I was in a bit of not shock, but because of doing that big move back to the UK and trying to settle in here and then going back again for the summer, I think I just that summer was a bit sort of difficult to sort of process emotionally for me, because obviously we were missing Japan, we were missing everybody there. It took us a while to settle into back being in the UK, so when we went to Japan, it was slightly more emotional. This year I feel a little bit calmer about the whole thing, and much more excited. I wasn't excited last year going back, but obviously I was a bit nervous about how things would go, especially with my son who's missing all his friends and things. I'm really hoping that he manages it a little bit better, or it's easier for him a little bit more this year, seeing friends and then saying bye again suddenly. So I think we're both sort of looking forward to it in a slightly calmer way this year, which is really, really nice. So that means hopefully I'll be able to do a little bit more filming of things and sharing what happens when we're over there. So we'll be there for a few weeks and should be really fun. And I will actually be there for almost the entirety of the Hobonichi launch season. And I think it does depend on dates and what they confirm this year, but I think I might be in Tokyo when Tobichi, so the bricks and mortar store that shows all of the new Hobonichis for next year, has their little event. So, I mean, I was there last year at the time and I did go, but I didn't film anything. But I'm really hoping that I can go again this year. It'll be my like special summer birthday treat. Really hoping to go again this year, and if I can film a little bit, I will. I know there's other people on YouTube that do like a really amazing Hobonichi event videos, and I doubt I'll be able to do anything as fancy as that. But you know, if I'm there and I see something interesting, hopefully I can get a little bit of that. Otherwise, it'll be things like stationery shopping, daily life type things. I do have a little bit of issue with editing. I'm not going to be taking a laptop with me. I'm travelling as light as I can this year, so I'm going to have to see if I can do everything on an iPad, which is a little bit daunting. I don't know if that's even possible. But even if I can't do filming and editing whilst I'm there and actually making the videos while I'm there, at least I can get a load of footage. And then when we come back in September, I'll be able to hopefully throw some videos together for you. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. So anyway, back to what's on the video. So I've been writing things in with various pencils, trying to sort of vary the colours a little bit depending on what's on the page. I've been swapping between using a Holbein pencil and a Tombow pencil. And like I said before, there's really not all that much to write about because I didn't really find all that much exciting to mention. And now this is kind of a regret of mine. This is actually the hardest thing to go back and do later on. Photo's easy because if you've taken the photo, it already captures all the information you want in that photo. And then obviously all the other things like paint and stickers and things, they're you know, very easy to do at any point. It doesn't really matter when you do them. But in terms of the journaling, writing in notes about what happened that day, it really is best not to leave it until weeks later. So, you know, I'm forgiving of myself for not having done it, but I think that is my sort of regret about this first 6 months of using this diary, is that I didn't write down more things on the day, or at least at the end of the week, because the things I want to journal about, it's not really going to be, you know, the boring day-to-day stuff, the appointments and things. Obviously, I do want to put them down, like when we went to the opticians and my son got new glasses, that's something I want to remember. And I'll probably have, you know, the photos of him with his new glasses on from that date, so I'll be like, oh, that's when we got those glasses. I mean, you know, things like that, quite happy to put in. But the things I'd really like to mention more are just little, like, everyday moments, the things that you don't remember, because you're going to remember the big things, but you're not going to remember the small things. You're not going to remember the funny thing that somebody said, or a nice moment when you were looking out the window while you're washing up and you saw something out the window. Those are the bits that I do want to remember, which I haven't. I've forgotten them. So going forward, when I start my new July to December version, I really want to try much, much harder to get the journaling done. Now, in an ideal world, the absolute minimum I would like to get done is the journaling. Then I would like to have spaces for my photos sort of arranged on the page so I know where those are going. That would be the absolute minimum I'd want to do as the weeks go by, as the weeks are happening. Everything else can be added again later. So I'm going to try harder for the next 6 months of the year and see how it goes. So I think with anything that you're trying to do on the daily or, you know, regularly, it comes down to making a habit of it, making a time of the day where you sit and do it. This seems to be the only way to get a habit going, generally speaking, for me. You know, with anything in life, if I want to do it regularly, I have to sort of create a little space for it. So, for example, I have a friend and we hardly ever call each other on the phone. And we don't really see each other very often, maybe once a year because she lives very far away. But we leave voice messages for each other on WhatsApp. And we do this, I tend to do this at certain times of the day. So I have a very short walk from my car to my job. And I always use that time to either listen to her messages or leave one for her. And because I always do that, it's sort of become like autopilot. Every time I get out my car and I walk to school, I take my phone out and I look for messages from her, or I leave one. I always think of her at that point in the day. So creating that sort of little tiny pocket of time, it could be like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, absolutely maximum. But because it's like a regular thing that happens, and a regular sort of connection has been made in my brain between the two things, walking to school, leaving a message to my friend, even if it's a tiny amount of time, I still get to do it regularly, and it's really, really nice to keep that habit up. So with the journaling, it is a similar kind of thing, in that if I don't have a little tiny pocket of time that I dedicate to always doing a certain thing, it is never going to become a habit. It does get a little bit awkward because obviously you have to journal at the end of the day. You have to sort of do the day before you write down about what happened. And at the very end of the day, in the evening, when I'm at my tiredest, my most tired is obviously going to be the messiest time of the day, the most difficult to have a habit. This is an admission of mine, I did buy an extra A6 Hobonichi notebook recently. I bought the super cute one with the cat image, cats poking their head around the corner image, just a little A6 one. And honest to God, the reason I did it, the reason I bought it, was because I want an excuse for the next Hobonichi launch to be able to buy an A6. I have not had an A6 this year from Hobonichi, and I do miss it. I love the size, it's so cute, they feel so nice, they come with the cutest little covers, but I didn't particularly have a use for them. So I literally, I'm going to have to manufacture a use for one if I'm going to use one next year. And I thought perhaps it would be a good way, because I enjoy the size and I enjoy using them so much, it would be a good way to get the habit of a daily journal of writing down what I did each day. And in a sense, it feels a little bit like duplication. So let me explain that better. My idea is literally to have an A6 Hobonichi, so it's dated, and at the end of the day, I write down what we did each day on the dated page. Then I would then take the key points from that and write them in this journal here. So yeah, it does feel a little bit like duplication, but it's kind of bridging the gap between two things that I want to do, because I love writing, sticking photos in and painting and stickers and all that stuff. But I cannot do it in an A6 because it will just bulk out so much, get so chunky, that after a couple of months it would be completely unusable. I know a lot of people have these gorgeous, gloriously chunky planners, chunky Hobonichis, that definitely don't shut anymore, and the binding is all kind of curved back on itself. And I think they're lovely and brilliant, but I just don't think I have the patience to battle with curved pages too much. I would say that what's going on in this planner here in the video is probably the maximum amount of bulk I can sort of manage. So yeah, I don't want to stick all my photos and stickers and paint and things in the Hobonichi A6 if I get one, but I do like to use it as a sort of a daily journal at the end of the day, writing down what happened. So the conclusion of that ginormous waffle is, if I do that, if I do make that little habit in the evenings to sit down and write out what happened, I'm going to have a lot more interesting stuff to put in here. So wish me luck, because that is my plan for the next 6 months. So I've already started doing it. I've missed several days so far, but I've certainly done a lot more than previously. So hopefully when I get my July to December Traveller's Notebook all sorted and filled up and chunked out by the end of the year, it will have a lot more journaling in it. That's the plan. Wish me luck. So if you're following along with this sort of filling the gaps, mind the gap challenge, let me know how you get on with this stage, whether you find the journaling a bit easy, whether you find it hard. Also, I know it's completely random of me to be like, oh, get all your old boring paperwork out and go through it. But, it was an excuse for me to get that sorted. It's been sitting there piling up and sort of bothering me. And I do feel loads better now that I've filed away the important stuff and shredded all the non-important bits that I don't need to keep. Let me know if you do that, whether you combine that or whether you're, you think that's dull. I've no idea. But yeah, I hope the video is interesting. It's me basically been waffling the whole time about random stuff, but hopefully it's been interesting, and I'll be back soon with the next stage, which is going to be date stickers, I think. Sorting out the dates across the top, either drawing in dates or putting in date stickers. So I hope you join me, and I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.